Okay, hi everyone. Um, my name is Summer Lawley. I am the host slash sub panelist for this Southwest Regional Town Hall. It's our second regional town hall. The title of this particular student debt panel is More Than Debt, and it's about how student loan debt has affected us, other than just an extra bill to pay. And that is a big thing, an extra bill, but student loan debt hits us in more places than just that monthly payment. And we want to know how it's affected our lives and how we've seen it affect other women's lives or Black women's lives around us. Next Tuesday is actually Equal Pay Day. It will have taken Black women 7 more months of work to make what a white man makes in 1 year. And we're going to be talking about that. But right now, we're talking about, kind of how debt is affecting us in more ways than just that monthly bill. Does the American dream, a college degree, a good job, a nuclear family, a house with a white picket fence, even apply to Black women at this point? Because we are the most educated population, and we're still unable to pay off our student loan debt. We hold the most out of any other demographic. So I'm going to let my wonderful panel introduce themselves. I'll start with myself really quickly. I'm Summer Lawley. I'm born and raised in Dallas, Texas. I am the regional outreach manager with 1,000 Women Strong. So this is the whole Southwest region. I cover Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Nevada, New Mexico, Kansas, and Missouri. I'm sure there's another state. Please forgive me if I'm leaving y'all out. I'm going to start with Angel. Can you introduce yourself really quickly?
Yeah, hi guys. My name is Angel Carroll. I am the Director of Advocacy at Measure in Austin, Texas. I'm actually born and raised in Austin as well. And our mission is to use data and education to mobilize communities to eliminate social disparities for people of color.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Lorraine?
Hi, my name is Lorraine Birabel, and I'm the Executive Director of the Barbara Jordan Leadership Institute. We are a nonpartisan nonprofit organization. Our focus is Black women specifically, and providing a comprehensive approach to leadership, community leadership based in action. So yeah, that's what we do.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, I'll start this panel just by asking y'all, other than me asking you to join today, why did you think it was important to actually come out and talk about your own personal student loan debt story and kind of how you see it affecting Black women every day? Lorraine, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, so the main reason why this issue, I wanted to be able to, first of all, thank you for the invitation to join the panel. But also a reason why I think it's important for people to speak out about it is from my personal experience. Like a lot of Black women, I worked my way through college. I have 3 degrees, 2 undergrad degrees and a law degree. And I worked my way through that because, coming from a working class background, no silver spoon, but you feel that there's something greater for you to achieve. And if your goal is to become educated, then what we have in this history is a very admirable history of Black women not taking no for an answer and doing whatever it is necessary to achieve their goals. And sometimes we have hurdles and setbacks that we have to, address and overcome to get there, but we get there. We get the job done. And what we've also seen in this country is, frankly, we carry this country on our backs, right? And we've been doing it for a long time. So this is really deeply personal to me just because of my personal life journey. And although, I did get some, scholarship support for law school, I ended up having to take out student loans for every step of my academic journey, in addition to me working full time throughout each one of those legs of the race. So it is quite personal. And I know a lot of people in my age group who are making decisions to delay families. I'm about to be 40. And I just had my daughter 2 years ago, right? I got married, 2017, almost nearly 5, but not quite, about 4 years ago. But delaying those, those life choices, buying my first house 5 years ago, because you have a lot of responsibility that other graduates, frankly, who come from a different financial situation may not have. And so these are some of the decisions, the tough decisions that a lot of people in my age group, particularly Black women, are having to make every day.
Mhm. Thank you. Angel?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. I joined for, similar reasons that Lorraine had explained so perfectly. My student loan history story personally, I grew up in foster care, right? So getting a higher education was a must for me because I understood where I wanted to be and what I needed to do for that. And I am blessed to not be in as much student debt as many people are, my peers. However, I recently graduated, right? And student debt is something that we know about. We know it's that dark cloud that's coming, but no one really wants to talk about. No one has the answers. And that is something that's very tough and has been tough for me. And I know, like many other Black women, hard to navigate. And so that's why I wanted to participate in this, to start those conversations, to start discussing, what our future looks like. Similarly for me, I now have to think about what my future looks like and how I navigate that. And personally, I'm not sure that I, at this point in my life, want to start a family, and my student loan debt is a huge factor in that. How can I bring, a Black child in this world, not to mention everything else that we as a people are going through, but student loan debt, right? Like, as a 26-year-old, I can't afford it right now. And I don't know when I will be able to, because it's going to take 30 years, to get that number down and to be where I want to be. And so that's stressful for us, as we know, and as we'll talk about later, but that's my journey.
Yes, thank you both for sharing. And, similar for me, I'm thinking about, getting my master's, and I'm thinking about going to law school. And it's just, I've already been working, for, about 10 years outside of college, and my student loan debt is the same. I'm like, I've been paying month by month on all these things, but it just, that interest rate, sometimes going in forbearance, and even, this COVID relief, even though they pushed off, our student loan payments, it's still, accruing that interest. So it's just like, can I, like, exactly like y'all said, can I start a family? We talked about family planning on our first town hall, how Black women are putting off, having children, and while they incur all the student loan debt. Can I, buy a house, and things like that. And all of this in order to, be more competitive and, get those, high paying jobs. But it almost seems like for Black women who, even though we are getting, going to school and getting these degrees and being excellent, it's almost like a pay for play almost, and they don't want us to ever pay it off. So next Tuesday is actually equal pay day for Black women. Like I said, 7 more months of work to get to where a white man makes. And just, when you think about, all that inequity, there's only, how many more years? I'm bad with math, but months, 5 more months in the year. If you think about, that inequity, do you, and letting everyone know that, hey, this is what's happening. Do you think they're listening? Do you think that, the system can't even change? Angel, you look like you have something to say.
I don't know if the system can change. I know that may seem pretty Debbie Downer of myself. I don't know. I hope that it does. We as Black women, we are strong. We, can do so much, and I'm a loss for words, to be honest. I hope
Yeah, so
I look, you
hopefully
saw
that
my face
people-
was really just frustration.
Yes, that was also a surprise question, but no, I think I'm hoping that, you know, our petition to cancel 50K in student loan debts will change up the game. But you know,
I do think to Summer's point, in order for us to have substantive change on this, like many other issues, it's going to take a groundswell. You know, some of the things that Senator Warren has been talking about, and this isn't just like recently, like for years she's been talking about, and others, really speak to the point that where we are as a nation in terms of our economic development, it's going to be stagnated if this student loan issue is not addressed. We have an entire generation that is saddled with literally thousands and thousands of dollars worth of debt. And of course, if you end up going grad school or professional school, higher ed, you know, you're talking about six-figure debt, right? And so until we address this issue, we're not going to have the sort of economic engine driving this country for a younger generation as the baby boomers head to retirement. And I think as our generation is continuing to take on leadership roles, and hopefully people younger than myself as well, you know, that attitude as we get into these leadership positions, I think is going to make a change as well. So do I think it's going to be overnight? Angel, I sympathize. I wish I could say with a snap of a finger it's going to happen immediately, and I don't think it is. But I think if we continue to press forward when we do have a groundswell on this issue, and again, as some of those people, you know, I'll just say age out of their roles, you know, I definitely think that there's going to be something substantive on that issue because the economy, you know, it's really a lost opportunity, frankly.
yeah, and you know, they forget that Black women are spenders. We will invest back into the economy, and it will be okay. But they have to recognize that we can't do anything with saddled by the student loan debt. So kind of going back to the question about the American dream, what do you have to say about, you know, having to accrue all of this? Was the American dream even made for Black women?
So I would say no. And then I would say that as long as the student debt crisis is a racial, gender, and economic issue, it's also going to be a no, right? So without that loom of threat of student loans, borrowers being able to cover basic needs, right, to achieve a stronger financial security and provide for our families, and then knowing that Black women have the highest amount of student loan debt, the American dream doesn't apply to us right now. I think I want to acknowledge the fact that we are able to obtain a higher education, which is huge, right? I want to acknowledge that. But student loan debt, that's huge. And we shouldn't forget about that.
I want to piggyback on that. It was not designed for us. Let's be perfectly clear, right? Whether your family immigrated here recently or your family was forced to come here, right, in chains, the so-called American dream of purchasing a house and having that white picket fence was not designed for us. And if you historically look at the 30-year mortgage, the whole reason why that was created was to allow more Anglos to be able to purchase homes. And then at the same time, we were redlined out of not being able to access those loan funds for us to have our own homes in our communities, right? And so I think the first step, of course, there has to be an institutional acknowledgement, right? Like we acknowledge it because we know it, because we live it every day, right? But there has to be an institutional acknowledgement, and that has started to begin, right? Like people are actually admitting that there's institutional racism. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, that was very taboo. So we are definitely kind of turning the corner on that. But we have to continue to remain engaged through our electoral processes, through our advocacy processes, through our governing processes to make sure that power is listening to the people and not the other way around.
Yes. And hopefully some of that institutional come in. We're planning on, you know, dropping those petition signatures to cancel 50K in student loan debt to Kamala Harris, a Black woman. So I know she knows about student loan debt. and Joe Biden, and hopefully an executive action, or even Congress will pick it up. But but right now we have a lot of work to do. And one of the ways that we can really fight this is by telling our personal stories, letting people know that me, despite paying faithfully Navient and Sally Mae, I'm still buried in my undergrad student loans, and because I'm entering a workforce that is not friendly, that is not equitable to Black women, I haven't been able to pay those loans off. How will 50K of student loan debt help me or help Black women in general? I mean, it'll just help, like I said, it would help me be able to start a family without the fear of being crippled by debt somehow. It'll, let me buy a house for my kids. But at this point, thinking about going to grad school and law school, it's just seems so unobtainable right now. And so, Angel, how will canceling 50K worth of student loan debt help you or other Black women in general?
Yeah, me personally, I would be student loan debt free. So
we're trying. That's what we're aiming for. Yes.
But I think that would truly help me to start looking at my future. Right now, I would be more comfortable exploring grad school and law school, and I think the same for Black women. One of the things that I look at for myself when I'm looking at doctors, I want a Black therapist, I want a Black doctor. And we know the importance of that, right? We know the importance of having Black healthcare workers, Black teachers, Black professors, right? I wish that I could have experienced and engaged with more Black professors in my higher education experience. And I think that would allow other Black women the opportunity and flexibility to do so. And just that alone improves our health, our mental health, our physical health. I can't say enough, right? This is just so important for us on many, many areas of our life as a people, not just women as well.
Yes. Lorraine, how will canceling 50K of student loan debt help you and other Black women?
Well, confession, I would not be in the clear, but it would clear my undergrad debt, which I would be extremely grateful for.
Same.
And so that would be a huge help for myself and my family. But I think for pretty much any Black woman who has been similarly situated, it would be a huge lift for her. And like was mentioned earlier, not just Black women, but an entire generation of younger people who a reality of getting a degree is getting into student loan debt. And I cannot underscore the impact that has for a family, right? Because if you have, for example, women in many cases are heads of their households, right? So then you talk about what does that mean for their children, the children that they already have, right? That means that they can afford to do some of those extracurricular activities. Maybe that means that, they can be more flexible. Maybe they can take that risk and start a business to where they can really use their time and their talents in a way that's most financially beneficial for their family, right? But all these kinds of flexibilities are good for themselves, their families, and the community at large. And so cannot understate the type of huge impact that would have.
Yeah, definitely. Y'all nailed it. And especially, Angel, you talking about Black teachers. I think representation matters. So, I was so glad to see, Barack Obama be the president, Kamala Harris be the vice president, and, representation matters. But so we need good teachers, good influencers, showing our kids that they can be whoever they want to be. But the question is, can we afford to be who we want to be? And, bringing up, Black doctors, we just don't have enough Black doctors. It takes to a lot of money to go to med school. And the effects of the lack of Black doctors or teachers, but, Black doctors here is that, Texas, for example, is the highest maternal mortality rate in the United States, in almost as in any, first world country, but, it's just, if it's been proven that, if you go see Black, doctors, Black people live longer. And that's just, I think, a huge thing that people, don't think about when we are talking about student loan debt, is just, all the other ways in which it shows malignantly in our society, by us not having those Black doctors, by us not having those Black teachers and things like that. And
if
so,
I may,
oh, please.
No, Lorraine, you can.
Oh, well, I was just going to add to that, Summer, you're really hitting the nail on the head. We actually had a panel recently on maternal mortality, and we're talking about this shortage of Black doctors. And one of our panelists, my co-founder, actually, Jane Hope Hamilton, shared her story about how she went to the ER because, she was having these symptoms, she was pregnant, and she actually could have been a statistic. She had a blood clot that had traveled to her lungs and then became a pulmonary embolism, which I think a lot of people know. If you're familiar with the condition, it is deadly. And so when she was at the hospital, she was told, oh, we've run all the tests, everything is fine. Thankfully, she did have a Black OBGYN by name of Dr. Chitani, who's also my doctor, shout out. But had Dr. Chitani not come in and stepped in and said, look, we have more tests that we can run, because a lot of times as patients, unfortunately, there are people who look to us as being superhuman, right? And this is not just in the patient space, but in the workplace, in pretty much every realm. African Americans are generally seen as superhuman by some other people. And so because of that, we are tolerance for pain, all these things, they think that we don't feel pain and that we don't suffer, right? And so that whole attitude has then translated into medical care. And so in her situation, fortunately, she had a doctor who was compassionate, who had bedside manner, who asked the questions and ran the additional tests. And that's how they discovered that she had this deadly, possibly, essentially could have been deadly. And she would have been a maternal mortality statistic here in Texas. And so these things are very, very real. And the doctor that was on our panel, she was explaining to us that less than 5% of doctors are Black, let alone OBGYNs. And when we talk about what percentage we are of the population, we are clearly dramatically underrepresented. And this is, across many professions. I know in the legal field, it's the same thing. Less than 5% of lawyers are Black. And we know what we face in the justice system, right? And so all is to say representation matters, just like you were bringing up earlier, Summer, with the school system. Black boys are over disciplined. Why is that the case? Perhaps the person that's working with them is not empathetic enough. Perhaps they're not seeing that boy as the human that he is. And so not working with him or understanding him and whatever it is that he's facing. And so, representation matters. And unfortunately, when we don't have access to the same opportunities, sometimes we're underrepresented in these really important professions.
Yes. Thank y'all. Because that's a big one. And it's potentially, life or death for Black women, these statistics, the student loan debt. So, it's just like, we carry the most debt, and we're the most highly educated population, but it's still not getting us there. And, if we, could go, if education could be free, imagine that, all of the, Black doctors who could be, helping, birth babies and just things like that. So it's way more than a monthly payment, student loan debt. So going back to kind of, our personal stories, if you had to do it over again, would you have taken out the student loans or as much as you did? And I want to add, would we have taken out as much loans, or did we even have that choice as well? Angel.
Yeah, so I think my answer is a yes and a no, right? I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
For me, it was 15% of foster care students graduate high school, and less than 3 go on to actually, obtain a four-year degree. So I didn't have a choice. There are some scholarships. There were scholarships available to me, but that didn't cover everything. I worked 3 jobs all throughout my college education, the 6 years that I was in, right? Because we know the effects that student loans and college, right, has on Black families, and it takes longer for us. So I didn't have a choice. Would I have taken out as much as I did? Yes, because that got me through that. Kept a roof over my head, right? I was working 3 jobs. I had to, quite frankly. I wish that there was more education, right? I wish that I didn't have to sign on that dotted line saying, whew, I'll have to take this out and I'll have to figure it out later, right? Yeah. And proper education on how to pay that off. My answer, I would do it over again.
Yeah, we're almost forced to. What do you think, Lorraine?
Yeah, I agree with Angel. When you're given a choice between achieving your dreams or not, right? And we as Black women, we're so resilient and so strong. A lot of us decide to go ahead and go down that path, not knowing, right, or not really having a game plan on how it's going to get addressed, and taken care of. But it's that courage that we have always exhibited throughout time. But I must add, on the education piece, I do wish that there was better education in high schools, for example. I know when I was leaving high school and going into college, I didn't have any guidance in terms of how college was going to get paid for or anything like that. And so that would have been really helpful. I know that there are some programs now. I don't know that those programs didn't exist when I was in school, but at least in my high school, I was not provided any information about that. And even going into, my first student loan, they give you that counseling that's like mandatory for you to get, but it would be nice to have something a little bit more in depth that pretty much walks you through, through your options. And when I say all the options, I really hope that schools, and I don't know if it's a budget issue or what have you, no excuses, of course, but helping people navigate, how they can get, because you always hear these stories about people getting all these scholarships and then not having to, take out student loan debt. I think that's a rarity, right, for people in our community. And it would be really great if there was some sort of more education from these educational institutions on how to actually do that, right? Because it is really hard and inaccessible for a lot of people when literally, people like us, we work through school and still have to take out student loan debt, not for not wanting to apply for scholarships, right? Let's be real clear.
Not enough scholarships in the world sometimes to cover these student loan debts.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I did not mean to interrupt. I almost feel like too, like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. For me, I remember I had a work study and some scholarships, and I think it was like a $200 scholarship. And they're like, oops, sorry, you got too much money. So, you no longer qualify for this work study. And it's just like, okay, so now I've got to go take out more loans, And as Lorraine mentioned, the Department of Education, you're now required to do, financial literacy training before you get your scholarships and loans. But I'm going to be completely honest, it was hard to understand. As a freshman going into college, you're talking about interest and accrued, all these terms that, quite frankly, even today as a 26-year-old, I'm still kind of like scratching my head on what does this mean? How is this going to affect me? So something has to change. And I agree, education on the front end is a huge part of that. But I think the education throughout, right? Where are you your junior, senior year in undergraduate studies? Where are you when you're in graduate school, in law school? And what does that look like? And I think honestly, just being honest with ourselves and students that it is going to be hard on the back end, right? This false idea that I had, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to graduate, I'm going to get this great paying job right off the bat, right? Because we all know those 6 months after graduating was rough. And then I'll be able to pay my loans off in 10 years, right? Because they tell, 10 years, this is the track that I'm on. And in reality, that's not true. And it doesn't apply to us as Black women.
Exactly.
And might I add, you didn't ask me my opinion on this, but work study. I mean,
yeah.
Let's just start off with like the minimum wage. There's like so much.
Yeah.
There's so much, and I don't want to digress the conversation, but I bring that up to say, perhaps there should be some kind of movement around asking educational institutions, yeah, the federal minimum wage might be this, but let's, can you signal that you actually want to support sustainable student lifestyles where they don't have to take out all this debt and give these students a livable wage for the jobs and the work they do to support the university?
And I love my
those are real jobs.
They are. And I love my alma mater, but like more diversity in those roles too, right? Like I was one of the few people of color in that role. And that's a lot, it affects us. And that diversity is so important for those roles as well.
Yeah, definitely. Y'all brought up so many good points. I'm thinking about, work study. It's just like, man, I don't remember getting paid that much, and I was working a lot of hours, and yeah, it's something. Even as they offer still as in your grad school, as an option, but that's putting your back against the wall, because that is definitely not going to sustain me paying for my apartment and food and things like that. And so it's just again, this idea that we kind of have to take out these student loans, because one, if we're not getting a college degree or a grad degree or law school or med school or whatever, if we're not doing that, we will not get as good paying jobs to support a family like we should. And it's just like, it's just like, yeah, just like you said, damned if you do, damned if you don't. So, I would say, what would you tell Black women who are seeking student loans to pay for college or even grad school like me? Lorraine, what would you tell them?
If I had to do it all over again, I would do it all over again, but just try to seek out, which is I don't know the answer to this, of course, but try to find people to mentor you who've walked down this path before, who can give you advice on how to go about a game plan on how they were able to address their student loan. There's different payment plans that are available based on your income, based on your family size. Not that it's great, of course, obviously we need an increase in the minimum wage. Of course, we need student loan relief, but in the absence of those things happening, because they're not here yet, but we're prayerful that they will happen. Having someone who can walk you through that path to say, hey, if you really want to do this, you want to, better your opportunities, become more educated through formal education. This is doable, and this is how you do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and seeking a mentor is hard just by volume of people who actually do complete the degree, or who are successful or whatever. So yes, we got to we need to be able to send more people to school, period. Angel, what would you tell someone seeking student loan debt?
I would
or not debt, seeking student loans, I guess.
I would recommend utilizing resources. I obviously just graduated, so I'm coming from that perspective. My university had financial advisors and a financial planning program that offered planning sessions for students. I know a lot of alumni programs also offer similar programs. So really, yeah, utilizing resources that are out there, whether it be through your school or other nonprofits. And as Lorraine said, that mentorship, that's going to be a huge piece. And go and talk to other Black women and men who, are in the same boat as you. And, how did you get through it? One of the things I wish I would have done additionally while I was in school was save to take care of that interest, to alleviate, some of that stress on the back end. But education is key, and connecting with others.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I would tell them is to sign our petition to cancel 50K in student loan debt, so that we actually have that real tangible result happen. Because like Lorraine said, it would cover my undergrad, maybe not law school like I'm seeking or anything else, but it's definitely the difference between having 50K in student loan debt and 100K in student loan debt after you finish grad school and your master's. And thinking about it, it's just going back to this whole idea that Black women, we are often the head of household. But yet we're just not getting paid on par. It takes us 7 more months to make what a white man makes. And I know that I am just as smart and if not smarter, most times smarter than the white man getting paid 7 more months to pay than me. So it's just this gross inequities that we have to, as a country, face. Do y'all have any last thoughts as we wrap up this town hall?
I just want to, really emphasize, we have to get involved, right? We can't just let things happen to us. We are all, as a Black woman, we are naturally driven because we have to be. We won't survive if we're not.
Literally, we won't.
But we have to not only engage, in our professional development, right, in our educational development, which we already do, but we also need to be engaged in our civic life, because that is how these changes happen. We have people who are literally, spending so for example, the banks, right, the loan servicers, I'm sure they have a trade group, right? They are spending money and they have people working day and night trying to figure out to not forgive student loan debt, right? Just like we have people doing that to try to subjugate our vote. And I can continue on down the line, right? And so we have to be just as aggressive as the people who seek to keep the status quo and to maintain the status quo. And what we know through the movements that we've been involved in, over, our history in this country, when we are have fortitude, when we continue to press forward, we ultimately find success in those movements. And so just as we're engaged on these other fronts, we need to be engaged in student loan debt, because, it's a simple bread and butter issue. It affects your everyday life. But if we don't get in the ball game, we can't win. And so, you're here, you're listening, you're part of this movement. Thank you. Sign the petition. But you also need to get involved at the grassroots level. Look for organizations that are active on this issue, work with them, contact your representative. Your member of Congress does have an impact and can push this for you. So contact your member of Congress. I think that part of the issue is there is this sort of celebrity culture, right, around politics. These people are not celebrities. They work for you. Put them to work.
Yes, put them to work, please. Got to get rid of the student loan debt. Just not just for me, but just for Black women in general, Black families, because the Black women are the head of the household. So if mama's doing good, we all doing good. So any last words, Angel?
Well, it's impossible to follow that. But again, get in contact with your local state representatives. Remind them that they work for you and tell them what you want. I can't stress that enough. They work for us and this is what we need.
Yes. So go to your web browser, sign that petition, come to 1,000 Women Strong events. Also tell your story. We have a link to our storytelling guide posted in a lot of places. More than facts and figures, our stories about student loan debt will do the most damage or the most good to the cause, because you know, that's what we know, that's what is. And so please, 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 not only, you know, sign the petition, but tell your story about student loan debt and why and how it's affecting you on a day-to-day basis. So we're I think we are done. We have exhausted all the questions, but this was a very, very good discussion, and one that we're going to keep having on Tuesdays. On Tuesdays, we wear pink. No, but on Tuesdays, we're going to be discussing student loan debt. Next Tuesday, we're actually going to be talking about the inequities between the pay of Black women and the pay of white men, and how, you know, it almost, you know, it's this paper play that we are just a part of. And it's just something that, you know, needs to be addressed, you know, and has a direct impact on our ability to pay these loans back, for sure. So thank you, Angel. Thank you, Lorraine, for joining. I think that's a wrap. Do y'all have anything else to say?
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for
were
joining.
great
Thank
as
you for
usual,
joining.
Summer. Thank you.
Yes, it was a great conversation. I really appreciate you guys. Y'all have so much knowledge that I'm just trying to soak in. The presence, just trying to soak it in. So thank y'all so much. So, all right. See y'all later. I'm going to hit stop recording and let me do it.